Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says President Trump will be absolutely pleased to sign the Senate's economic relief bill. Negotiators say they reached an agreement on the emergency $2 trillion legislation to combat the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, the president says he's hoping to reopen American business by Easter, and that is just 2.5 weeks away. CBS News White House correspondent Paula Reid joins me now from the White House. And Paula, this goal from the president was met with some hesitation from leading health officials. Why are they pushing back on this Easter timeline?
That's right. The president told Fox News that he wants to see packed churches on Easter. But that's exactly what his top health experts have been warning against to try to contain this outbreak. The president was pressed yesterday at the briefing about what his reasoning was and whether there was any sort of medical or economic basis for this timeline. And he admitted it was just an idea that he thought was, quote, beautiful. And that's why you saw his top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, at that same briefing really pushed back on this. Fauci said, look, we have to be flexible. We need more data and information to know what a realistic timeline would be. In fact, Fauci points to the fact that, yes, I agree with the president. There are parts of this country where you don't see the kind of outbreak and the kind of spread you're seeing in New York City. But I think most people understand that if in 2.5 weeks you have a gathering of 300 people and just one of them has it, you can actually spread this pretty quickly in those regions. That's why even Dr. Birx, another one of the president's top coronavirus experts, she was on stage with the president and she, too, just would not endorse this idea. Instead, she said she wants to wait until they have more data.
Paula, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is calling on the Trump administration to give his state more ventilators and supplies to deal with the rising number of cases there. So how is the White House working with state governments to get them what they need?
It's been interesting to watch the White House, particularly the president, try to balance this desire to help the states, but it appears he does not really want to completely federalize this response. There have been some great relationships between him and states, including California. Governor Gavin Newsom, he is someone who's disagreed with the president pretty consistently. They've litigated on a lot of different policies, but here in this crisis, they've actually had nothing but kind words for one another, and they appear to be working together quite well. But yesterday, in his Fox News town hall, the president said something that sort of raised some eyebrows. He suggested that in order to get aid, that the states, the governors, need to, quote, treat us well, suggesting that states need to show appreciation to the White House before they can get aid. And when it comes to the state of New York, you see a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the president's dealings with Governor Cuomo. They have exchanged some pleasantries, but Cuomo has also at times been critical of the federal response, said he's not getting what he needs. But the president pushed back on that yesterday, suggesting it was actually Cuomo's fault for not procuring some of these supplies long ago. So definitely a mixed bag in terms of how the president is dealing with the individual states.
Paula, the Senate's coronavirus relief bill, it's expected to pass today. The legislation states that properties controlled by the president or his children are barred from receiving any of the financial aid. And the ban also extends to heads of cabinets and members of Congress. Has the White House spoken about this specific piece of the bill?
It's interesting because the president in his previous life was, of course, involved in the hospitality industry. That's still his family business, and that business certainly has not been spared during this economic downturn. But when it came to the stimulus bill, there were a lot of provisions where companies, private companies, could get millions of dollars. And the president was, of course, asked, could your companies benefit from this stimulus that your Treasury Secretary, your White House, is currently negotiating? And the president wouldn't foreclose on that possibility. In fact, he also didn't seem to fully grasp the concerns that Democrats and some others had about this. He was asked on Monday at the briefing about oversight. The stimulus bill contemplated at that time about $500 billion in corporate relief. But at that time, there was no one who was going to oversee how Treasury was going to be doling this out. We asked the president how he thought that should be handled, especially because so many people have concerns about all the money that was handed out to corporations in 2008. We asked him, how would you do things differently? He defended the fund. He didn't seem to really understand the concern. And then when we pressed him, he said that he could provide oversight. So within about 24 hours after those remarks, you saw in the deal there is now actually a pretty robust oversight mechanism for that corporate relief for folks to check. And there is now, of course, a provision, as you noted, that the president's companies will not be able to benefit.
Earlier on CBS this morning, CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger said the legislation shouldn't be referred to as a stimulus bill for the economy, but rather a lifeline. So do we know if the White House is planning any further legislation or proposals to help boost the economy?
Well, now that they've reached the deal, this is really a key question for the White House, because for a long time, the president's top economic advisors, Larry Kudlow, even the Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, who has negotiated this deal, he said that this was going to be a long game. Specifically, he used a baseball analogy in innings. He said about a week or so ago, we were in about the third inning, and that he expected there to be numerous different relief packages that would be passed over time to deal with the different aspects. But now you have this massive deal that has been negotiated, and it's unclear right now. We're probably going to ask the president at some point today whether he thinks this is enough or if he will continue to pursue additional relief for businesses, for individuals going forward. He has said that he may like to see people receive more than one check, the folks who are going to get a little bit of money if they made it under a certain amount of income. But at this point, the likely answer to that question is they just have to see. They have to see how this helps the market rebound, how long the economy will effectively be shut down. It's probably too soon for the administration to commit to whether or not they're going to go to Congress to ask for more money and more relief.